Produced by Mom on the Beat.
First off, how you doing today?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Doing well. And where are you at right now?
I'm in Houston.
In Houston. Okay, we're in Florida.
Okay. I actually, the first part of my life, I lived in Florida. I lived in Miami up until I was about 13. And then I moved to New York. And I was in New York till I was 28. Then I moved to Houston. So I'm a bouncer. I go from place to place. So I was actually just in Miami last year around the same time visiting family and stuff like that. So
what's your musical background? For as I see that, since you make beats and everything, a lot of people have sometimes a musical background.
Well, I guess the only real musical background I have is I kind of played instruments in high school. I played the violin in high school, so I can read music and read clefs and everything. But I don't really play an instrument like that. Like, people think when they see me playing that I play the keys, but I don't. I just play what I feel. I know basic chord structure and stuff like that, but my beats and everything, I just feel my way through. So, but my husband is a musician. He's a band guy. He plays every instrument under the sun. He knows music theory. So like where I may be lacking, he tries to give me some education. And like I said, I've been educating myself, taking classes and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I have a pretty limited musical background, except for listening to a whole bunch of different types of music, especially as a kid, because both of my parents are from Latin countries. So I listened to everything growing up: reggae, bachata, salsa, all of that kind of stuff. So
it sounds like your husband rubbed off on you a little bit, though.
He rubbed off on a lot. Okay, so when we first met, when I first moved to Houston, he was talking to me about being his artist, because I used to rap and write flows and stuff like that. And so he reached out to me about being his artist. Obviously that didn't work out, but once we hooked up and everything, I'd be going to the studio with him at his homeboy's house, and we'd be there all night. And so I just finally got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm musically inclined. I've tried to DJ before. I actually got to touch an MPC a long time ago. And I'm like, I want to know what it is that's so great about this. Show me, and he showed me the basics of what to do. And that's where it all started, from me being bored of waiting in the studio all the time. So
how long have you been making beats?
So I had a long break. I made my first beat when I was 31 years old in 2006. And I did it for about 3 years. I got pretty far. I worked with a lot of artists, local artists. I was in a few beat battles here and there. But at the time, we talking, the early 2000s, there's a lot of female producers out there now, and they still having a hard time breaking into the industry and everything. It was doubly hard 10, 15 years ago. So the pressure of it all kind of sat on top of me, and I stopped. But this past December, Christmas time, we home on break and everything, something tapped me on the shoulder, and I walked in the studio and made a beat, and I haven't stopped since. So in all, I guess you would say about 4 years, with a very, very long break experience. Yeah.
So was music or making beats always a passion of yours?
So like I said, the first time around when I first started, it was first out of curiosity. But then once I discovered that I could create, and that I could take, sitting at my sister's piano, just fooling around in high school and making little chords and stuff like that. And now I had the ability to take that, add drums, add bass, it's it's like therapy for me. It's a way to express myself that only I can do. And yeah, I love it. It's addictive.
So I heard you say it's like therapy for you. So I know you enjoy it because we can tell, watching you that you really enjoy it. But are you reaching out to other artists in the Houston area or just globally?
Well, what I've been learning about Houston is kind of cliquish. And so what you'll see is you'll have this one artist, and then around that artist is all this producer or DJ. So it's kind of cliquish. I have worked with a lot of Houston artists, the first go around, mainly female rappers and everything like that. Like I got to work with some of the premier female rappers at that time in Houston. But I actually I work with more artists outside of Houston. Like I worked with people in New York, Arizona, Africa, over on the UK side, Australia. And I'm not working with anybody in Houston. So
I think that's not just a Houston thing.
Oh, really?
Nah, I think that's just music thing, honestly. At least in hip hop. I don't know about the R&B side, but in hip hop, it's a clicky thing.
Yeah, hip hop. Cause I actually do everything. I do hip hop beats. Actually, most of the stuff that I've had in Houston or with people in Houston has been hip hop beats. Like I said, with female rappers and stuff. But I do hear that a lot. I hear people say that the local love is harder to come by than the outside love.
Always.
Yeah, and then I'm older now too, so these kids do a little different sound. Like they all kind of sound similar to me.
Yeah.
Same instruments and the same percussion. It sounds the same rhythms, everything. It's kind of cool, I guess, to sound like other people, but I'm old school, so I have my own sound, and I don't know how well it resonates or reverberates with the kids, but I do what I do.
So, do you use Pro Tools or anything like that?
Yep, sure do. That's what I use. That's what I use. That's what I learned as the first software that I started on, and it's what I use now. It's Pro Tools 8. It's the old version of Pro Tools. But I also use a piece of hardware. My husband bought me an MPC recently, so I've been using that in conjunction with Pro Tools because I basically will make the beat in the MPC and then bounce it into Pro Tools to add whatever sounds or effects I need. So I do both hardware and software.
So being a beat maker, what producers and just in that genre, what is there producers that you found that you like or that you listen to try to curve out your own lane?
I there's a lot of musical influence because, like I told you, being older, we have a larger library of classics that we can dig into and listen to and be inspired by. But I would say production-wise, producer-wise, RZA, I love RZA. RZA to me is one of the best producers in the world, and I think he's underrated. But he's so versatile. He can do a movie score for you. He can do a hardcore hip hop beat for you. He can do pop. He can do everything. And so but his core is grime. And I kind of relate to that because I make, little soft R&B and all of that, but I like grimy hip hop beats. So I really, really relate to him in that sense.
So as a producer, what's your strength and weaknesses? I know a lot of people don't like to admit their weaknesses, but we all have them.
Well, I would say as far as strengths, what I hear from other people over and over again is my melodies. Like people always want me to play a melody or send them loops of melodies that I played so that they can then make beats around it. So I'll say the melodies, I guess, would be a strength. Weakness, I'm just coming back to the craft after 12 years. So I'm still a novice producer. I'm still new to this, really. I'm still real young in my career in the game. So there's a lot of technical stuff that I still don't know how to do. I might not know how to, I'm just learning mixing and mastering. Like I said, I just was sitting in a mixing class right before we did the Zoom. So I have a lot of weaknesses right now. So I've just been practicing and trying to strengthen the weaknesses and the technical inefficiencies and that kind of stuff.
What inspired you to make that Purple beat?
Purple. Oh, you like Purple, huh? A lot of people like that beat. So nothing really inspires me. I can't say, well, maybe you might get a little melody that you were like, oh, I'm playing with this melody in my head, let me put it down. But like with Purple, I probably started with the pizzicato, and just layered on top of that. And then when I presented it like to add the guitar part, as Purple Prince, like I got that sexy, sensuous, princey feeling, and I felt the guitar, but I struggled to play the guitar. And actually another producer in Houston hit me up and was like, send me that. Let me hook the guitar up. And he hooked the guitar up. I think my husband is gonna help me with some of the key, because like I told you, he's a musician. He can really play. So maybe some of the piano accompaniment. But I love the beat. It's becoming its own thing because people are adding to it and layering it, and but no inspiration, but it got named the way it was named, like I said, because after I laid what I laid, I was like, oh, this kind of Princey sounding. So I guess that would be.
So seeing that, you've been around music for a long time, you've seen the evolution of the music industry. How do you feel social media has influenced the music as a whole, music industry rather?
As a whole, I think technology, okay, so like I tell you, when I first started doing this, it was still before all the social media platforms. There wasn't no IG or Facebook or anything. Back then, the only platform was MySpace. And so you were just limited to what audience you had on MySpace. And you still printed up your CDs, tried to get a deal through a distribution and stuff like that. It wasn't this independent movement that we're experiencing right now. And so I think the technology is a good thing in the sense that it makes it accessible. So anybody who wants to create can, but at the same time, anybody who wants to create can, and then can share it out to everybody. And I think that kind of kills quality in some respects. But I mean, the fact that anybody from any part of the world can go online and find them a DAW for free online and make a beat, that's awesome. That says that technology has moved real far in just the 10 years I've been away from it. So it helps, but it hurts a little bit too. I guess is my short answer.
So do you think that technology is great, but at the same time, do you feel that it has made some people lazy in the sense that the grind is not there anymore for as, really perfecting your craft and then going to these labels, which I'm a fan of people being independent artists, but nothing wrong with being on a label if that's going to catapult you to where you want to be.
Right.
But do you feel that not having that grind has made a lot of people lazy?
I don't know that piece has made people lazy. I think that the technology itself. So, I know there's a lot of other systems out there besides Pro Tools. So I hear people talk about Fruity Loops and Ableton and all of these. I'm not familiar with those systems, but what it appears to me, because I know back in the day when Fruity Loops first came out, it was like, oh, they just copy and pasting, they just doing automation, they're not really playing anything, they're not really producing.
Right.
I think that I guess that's still kind of true. Because like with me, when you hear a drum played or any of the music that you hear, I actually play. I play all my percussion. I play everything. So with the MPC, okay, so this will give you my good example. In Pro Tools, I don't know how to replicate all them sounds and everything, or how to do the hi-hats with all the rolls and all of that. On the MPC, all I got to do is press a button and it does it for me. So the technology has made it that you can be lazy and still produce. And if you're someone who's good with music or has some production experience and you know how to do those things on your own, but then now you're like, oh, well, I could do it in here easier. I think it kind of make it does kind of make it a little bit lazier, because I'm like, well, shoot, I can make a hot beat in the MPC real quick, right? Easy, 5 minutes I can make one, where over here it's going to take me an hour, 2 hours to get exactly what I want. So yeah, the technology has kind of helped me make me a little bit lazy.
So when you're out and about, you're not at the house, how do you capture your ideas for what's in your head on your phone? All right.
You will hear me, I will have a moment and be like, or whatever I need to do, I record it and come home and then put it there. Yeah, my phone is basically my lifeline. Everything I do in there. I even have a app on here that's a piano, and you can record phrases. So if I think of something right at the moment, I'll play it out, record it, and then come back and play it out in here. So the phone is definitely a good tool in this practice.
Do you have a favorite musical project that you worked on?
So one of my favorites, because like now everything is new and I'm working with different artists and stuff like that, but there's nothing completely done that I can say this is my baby. Like the single that we have, that my husband and I have coming out, I Choose You, we love, because it was one of the first beats that I started making when I started back to producing last year. Right. But I would say one that sits with me is going to be a song that I did with a few female rappers here in Houston, where we did basically a hood representation track. It's called Rep the H, and they all from different parts of Houston, and they all did their 16 repping their hood and everything, but then in all we rep H-Town, with me on the beat and everything, and I even did some chopping school effects in there and everything. I think that is my baby from the first go around. It's one of my favorites that I've ever done.
So outside of music, what do you do for fun?
I'm a mom. I don't have no fun. I don't know. You probably even heard my daughter in the background because my husband is back there wrangling food, because I popped the pizza in the oven right quick, so he's pulling it out to get her fed and everything. But yeah, really, when I'm not doing this, most of my time is spent with my daughter, my family. That is my fun. That's my inspiration. At the moment with COVID and everything, it's the safest place to be. Right. And anything I like to do outside of this house is with them. So my family is everything.
So is your daughter old enough where you can start teaching her?
She's 7, so she'll come in here on occasion. Every once in a while, she'll come in here and sit in my lap and be like, can I help you? Hello. See? So she does show. She does show interest, but not as often as I would like. But I think as she gets older, she will, because she does come in every once in a while and say, "Show me." And so I teach her basic stuff like the low end of the keyboard, the high end of the keyboard, the drums, what the MPC pads do. So I'm gonna build me a little monster once she's completely ready to do it.
I totally understand that. Kids at a certain age, they'll figure out, especially when they see their parents doing something. I think that's great. that you're in the home and you're doing that, because that's something she can really feed off of.
Hmm. And then mommy and daddy. But she seems to take more interest when I'm in here because she's probably like, well, mommy's doing that. That's pretty cool. Can I do it? And she gets in my videos and stuff like some of the videos I post on my page. She's the star of them and everything because this is our home. And so this room is an extension of that home. And so she's welcome to come in here and do whatever, as long as she don't tear nothing up, of course. So when she comes in here, it's just an extension of our love fest. And I just can show her another level of mommy that she might not just experience, on her own.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could produce a track for anyone, who would it be?
So this is a hard one for me because my ultimate goal is Jay-Z. Jay-Z is, as far as I'm concerned, the ultimate level of being able to produce for him would be the ultimate level of success. Like, I love everything the man does. But if I could have, like, let's say my first placement, Rhapsody. I love Rhapsody. I went to her concert back in March, right before the shutdown for coronavirus. And I got to meet with her and I did the meet and greet. So I got to actually speak to her and everything, but I love her music. Her music brings me back to when I was 15, 16 years old and loved hip hop, and like, she's dope lyricist. She has dope production. I just love Rhapsody.
So what brought you to Houston?
Black Planet. Remember Black Planet?
Black Planet.
Black Planet is before MySpace, before Facebook, before it's one of them social media sites. And I call myself chatting with some guy. And I moved to Houston and we broke up and I met my husband 6 months later. So initially trying to escape Houston, or trying to escape New York and the jungle and the rat race and love. But what's kept me here has been my husband.
Okay. Good love story.
Uh-huh.
So what's the best advice that you can give someone that's passionate about producing music and they're just starting out? What advice would you give that individual?
Don't quit. The biggest mistake I made as a young, like a early in the game producer, was to get discouraged and just say, I don't want to do this no more. Over the time that I decided not to do it, I lost practice time to perfect my skill. I lost opportunities to make connections with people that could have put me in a different place. I just lost time to grow. So I would say to a young producer, can I cuss?
Yeah, free to do it.
Okay. This shit ain't easy. And we're talking even on a just a low level, as just somebody who might take it, they're just an enthusiast and it's something they want to learn, and not even on a level where I want to make beats where I can make placements and all of that, just on a level as a hobby. If you stop, you can't get any better. And my biggest mistake was stopping. So I would advise any young producer, no matter how frustrated you get, no matter how artists piss you off, because they're going to piss you off, they're going to waste your time, they're going to ask for stuff, they're not going to follow up. There's a lot of frustration, but if you stick with it, ultimately, I'm sure you'll see a lot of success.
So earlier in the beginning, you said that you was doing a mixing class. What does that consist of? So
one of the things that I'm weak at, because when I first started doing this, I only cared about making beats. I didn't care about the whole project, the whole product, because the mix is an extension of the beat. So I realize the importance of it now. I actually did a talk with somebody last night. Her name is Lisa. She runs this thing called Omni Sound Project, and she basically gives you different classes on different topics. So I just happened to notice that she had a mixing class, so I took the mixing class. But I do a lot of online networking, like meet and greets, and like that's one great thing that's different from now. You don't actually have to go out and meet people. You can sit right here at the house.
Yes.
Learn something, network, do whatever you need to do. So I've been jumping on every class, every networking event, anything that I can do to meet more people, to get my name out there, to learn something that's going to be essential as part of the craft. So yeah, I noticed she had those classes, so I jumped right on it. I paid my little $10 and I learned the whole panning, reverb, delay. I learned all, even though I already had the basics of that, because my husband, actually, he was sitting in here while I was watching. He was like, "No, that's not right. That's not really." So I had the best teacher, but I feel the need to go off on my own and learn on my own too. So that's what I was doing.
So what's next for Mom on the Beat?
Who knows? That's in God's hands. I'm just going along for the ride. In the short period of time that I've come back to it, a lot of blessings have fallen in my lap, including this Ride the Beat opportunity. Just lots of different things. People hitting me up and asking me to be on a project or doing that. So I don't know what the future holds. I'm just allow it to happen and just have faith that whatever happens is supposed to.
Well, before we get out of here, I'd just like to thank you for taking the opportunity to come onto the show to talk about your skill and your passion, and let the people know where they can find you and follow you.
I am Mama on the Beats on pretty much every platform, IG, Twitter. I'm actually EQ Aphrodisiac Music, and that's because my old producer name was EQ, but I couldn't go back as EQ because I'm old. So I was like, I'm old enough to be these kids' moms. Mama on the Beats, that's it. So, but yeah, Mama on the Beats pretty much on every platform.
Okay, well, I wish you much success.
Thank
and I appreciate you taking this opportunity, and keep at it. Don't quit.
I don't quit.